Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone, hi everyone, hi everyone, hi everyone. What's up, Callow? How are you?
Good. How you doing? It's super nice out. Super nice out today.
Yeah, all of a sudden it's like Big Sur over here. I don't know what happened. Like what I mean, I'll take it. It's not 108 degrees. It's not Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It's not that. I can tell you that much. I'll
That's
take
right.
it.
Yes. Yes,
Weather gods are
exactly.
being nice here in August to us. I'll take it for the last preseason week. I like it.
Me too. Absolutely.
Yeah, you get to run in this, huh? You running this weekend?
Yeah, so my marathon training plan is ramped up. I do 4 miles, 7 miles, 4 miles. So this week has been very nice. And then yeah, I have the Quantico 12K this Saturday. It's a
Quantico
trail.
12K, which is like what the lead up to the Marine Corps Marathon, what you're doing this fall?
So I decided at the beginning of the year, the Marine Corps Marathon is a actual series. A lot of people don't realize this. They do like
Oh,
5 or 6 races throughout the year, and if you do all of them, you get like a special participant like medal at the end of everything. And so I
oh,
decided when I picked running back up last year, I wanted to do all 5 of their major races, and of course, the biggest one is the Marine Corps Marathon in October. But I decided, oh yeah, let me do this 12K. Except now I'm realizing it's at 6:30 a.m. in Quantico, and not exactly the closest place in the world to go drive to on a Saturday morning.
we can go real estate hunting when we get our stadium in Dumfries.
That's 2 years ago. That's 2 years ago. Let's not
Yeah,
revisit
yeah.
that.
Like that joke doesn't even has no bearing in reality anymore because
that
Dan's gone. No bearing. I can't make fun of Dumfries. We had Dumfries for a year and a half there. That was Dumfries.
Dan Snyder Dumfries or Dumfries Dan Snyder would have been his
There
new
were
nickname.
literally days where I was looking up on Zillow real estate in Dumfries going, do I have to get a house down there? Because there's just no chance that I wouldn't stay over there sometimes during the football season.
You know,
So,
now the name does make sense. The Commanders playing in Dumfries, right near Quantico, would have actually made a lot of sense. maybe that was the missing
yeah.
piece.
Dan's like, see, tried.
he's full Pepe Sylvia
Yeah.
with the billboard up. See, it was all gonna make sense. We just
Yeah.
needed to go to Dumfries.
Yeah. He's watching this on his phone on a yacht in France somewhere, going, see, someone finally gets it, connecting the dots. It only
Right.
took him 2 years.
Yeah. I'm sure he's listening to us on his yacht. Yeah.
I doubt it. You know, never know. You never know. You could subscribe to the show now, Callow. It's very easy to get.
This is true. This is true. Yeah, I'm sure he wants to watch it on YouTube every day.
Oh man. Speaking of culture shifts, all right, let's I want to start with the Tua stuff today, actually,
Yeah,
because
sure.
like one, the team had the day off. Two, I'll talk about them, but I just don't want to talk a lot. I don't know. Maybe I'm like, I need to get out of my bubble just for a minute here. Three, I think it's an interesting lesson in modern football chemistry and how you talk to athletes these
Yep.
days because everybody's got an opinion about it. I don't blame them. I thought it was an unusual thing for him to reveal because I saw something yesterday. I saw a clip from one of the ESPN shows and Jeff Darlington was on it. And Jeff Darlington's covered the Dolphins forever. And did so locally and then nationally. He's been doing it for ESPN. So anytime they're good, he's on their beat. He lives down there. And he mentioned something that I thought was really strange about it because he goes, all these things that Tua is saying, I reported, and just kind of offhanded mentioned. He's like, I reported like this stuff is true. Like he had shown me text messages where the guy was saying, Flores was saying just ridiculous things to him, like don't blow it tomorrow. And they're like text messages on a Saturday night to him saying that, and all the other stuff that went along with where Tua revealed on Dan Lebatard's podcast that basically the guy was just an incredible, to him, like constantly just telling him, you're not good enough to be here. You don't deserve to be here. And Tua was like, called him a terrible person and basically said, how would you like to go to work every day? And the person who's kind of in control of your destiny with the team thinks you're awful and terrible and you suck and you're going to ruin his coaching tenure and all that stuff. He goes, how would you feel about that? And he goes, and then he went into the difference of McDaniel's not that way. And Darlington just offhanded said, yeah, I reported this. And I'm sitting there going, I don't remember that part. Like at all. Like this happens so many times in society where people do report that these things happened in real time, yet for some reason it's not part of the narrative. And then somehow, like years later, it becomes that. Like everybody knew Bill Cosby was a predator, but for some reason it took years for it to actually get some kind of traction where people looked at him that way. And this is not the same thing, obviously. Like Flores being a terrible person to Tua is not the things that were going on like in that example. But the point is like him saying that, like I don't even remember him saying that because I remember defending Flores for years about his firing, and he took the league to court and he's telling them it's because I'm black. And I'm sitting there going, now in light of this, I'm sitting there going, no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
And yet we didn't listen to any of the reporting then.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't remember him saying that at all. And I feel like we would have remembered this if it did. I mean, maybe it was paired with something crazy. That's the only thing I can think of where this happens sometimes where, you know, this team was the king of it, where something would get reported and then all of a sudden it'd be like, hey guys, look over here. And they distract you with something and everyone would talk about it. I don't remember this at all. But like what I will say is I remember all the reporting with Urban Meyer when Urban Meyer kicked his kicker and left his team. And like, I remember that every step of the way, because I think like this is the overall conversation that I brought it on my show yesterday was this age of coaches being, you know, what's to their players is over. I think this is a good example of this.
In general.
Sure,
I saw Brady do some show. I think it was Stephen A. Smith or somebody recently.
Yeah.
And he wasn't, I don't think he was speaking because I saw a clip of it and people were intimating it was connected to this. I don't think it was. No. He was kind of intimating that hard coaching is a good thing. Like that he's like, listen, like this isn't fun and games and nice. Like everybody's got to be on the same page. It's a coordinated sport. It's a violent sport. And, you know, if you want to win, you know, you need somebody to kick you in the, you know what, all the time. And I don't think he was intimating that you should be what Flores was to Tua, which was tear this guy down over and over and over and over, which to me, like felt like abuse. Like when I listened to how he was like, the working relationship was abuse. Like it got to a point where this isn't coaching anymore. This is extremely personal. And it's just kind of like, I don't know how you're building a relationship with anybody by talking to this person all the time that way. So I'm not like, and I saw Brady say that and I saw people link it to that. And I'm like, I don't think he was talking specifically about that particular relationship. I think his point largely was, though, we can't all be kumbaya. Like that's not this sport. And it's impossible to be good if you're going to be that way with one another.
The Brady thing, I think it was the clip where, because I used it yesterday too, where he said there's not programs anymore. Where like, because of how the NFL won, it's what have you done for me lately? And if you don't produce within the 2 years, it gets blown up. And he said college is now not like that, but it's getting to be that way where you can't shape rosters and have guys stay at one place for a while. Yeah.
Well, people don't stay. They go for money. And if you have the money and you're willing to pay everybody, then fine. But like, that's not going to be the reality. And in the NFL, it's true. Like Caleb, the Bears just traded Justin Fields and brought in Caleb Williams, made him the starter. The Commanders, didn't have a quarterback, so that was a different situation. Like they went and got Jaden Daniels. The Patriots didn't really have a quarterback, so they went and got Drake May. But to his point of nobody is willing to like give him a redshirt year anymore. Nobody is. Like you're off and going. Like the second they think Drake May, whether Jacoby Brissett starts the opener or not, doesn't even matter. The second they think Drake May's ready to go, or if they're, 2-5 or whatever, they're just going to put him out there. And I think it's part of Brady's point too, with this whole thing. They're unwilling to develop anybody anymore.
No, exactly right. And I think he's got a point there because now the coaches have to play this line of, well, if I coach this guy too hard, he's going to leave now. And I think that's kind of what Brady was getting at too, of if this guy gets unhappy in any way, shape, or form. You've dealt with athletes before. I've dealt with athletes before. Some of them are super sensitive and they know, oh God, if I talk to this guy the wrong way, I'm going to lose him. And then all of a sudden I'm going to lose my job because he ends up transferring or leaving the team, whichever league you want to talk about.
The leverage flipped. Like when NIL was opened up, and I'm all for the players making money, but the leverage flipped on the coaches. The coaches can't be this way any longer because the players, one, have the control of if they're a good one, they can control and go, this is the amount of money I want. And oh, by the way, this is the amount of playing time that I want. And oh, by the way, if I don't like working with you, I can go into the transfer portal tomorrow. See you later, buddy. Like, and so that style of coaching just isn't going to fly. We've seen this for years in professional sports, and it really came to a head in the NBA. These NBA stars, I think we're seeing there's some pushback from some of the teams in the leagues from like just letting anybody go anywhere. We saw that with Dame Lillard. A couple of other teams are just like, we're not just sending you wherever you want to go. Like we need to figure it out on our behalf. But for a while there, and still to a large degree, the star players dictate where they, not only that they don't want to be somewhere, but they just where they want to go. And I'm seeing a little bit of it in the NFL. I mean, there's some players that are trying to make Brandon Ayuk, trying to make things actually happen. The NFL hasn't buckled yet, I think, to many players, not just to say like, okay, we'll trade you, but exactly where you want to go under your terms. We haven't gotten there yet, but the dynamic of the power has belonged more into the athlete than it ever has in the history of sports, whether it's collegiately and professionally. And that's why I think some of this too is you could be coached hard if you want to be, but there is a line, and Flores crossed it, like clearly crossed it. And, you know, that's why I go back to the Darlington thing. It was, what was weird about it is Darlington saying, I reported this, but nobody really kind of paid attention. Yet here we are a few years later going like, I can't believe that happened. And Darlington's sitting there like not pointing it out. Like, I tried to tell you all this was going on. It just, I don't know. Maybe we just hadn't reached that point in the NFL where we're like, that's completely unacceptable behavior.
Possibly. And I mean, I think the other part of this too, though, that like the other side of it that I don't think enough people are talking about it reminded me of when you and I were talking about Jay Gruden in his last year, where remember he was openly, I mean, and this wasn't the first player he did this with, but remember Jay Gruden was openly like, yeah, Dwayne Haskins, yeah, he doesn't have it. Remember he like very fast was like, this guy is not going to start. He has no chance to start. He didn't say that, but the way he talked about him was ridiculous. And you and I right away
texting him though, like you suck, right?
No,
like, I mean, like that's the point. Like I don't get the sense that Jay was kind of like that. But no, like, but he was a little too honest with us. You're right. Yeah.
But I think the point is here for both of them was this guy was drafted to be your franchise quarterback. You're linked to him now, whether you like it or not. So you have to succeed with him or you're gone. And with Jay, the wheels went off before he ever even turned to Haskins. Yeah. And for Flores' case, I'm pointing at him going, dude, they basically tanked to get this guy. Why are you talking to him like this? Like the owner was already wanting this guy. And you and I know how this works. The coach goes before they give up on a quarterback that they draft second overall or third overall. And that's where I'm actually like, it's just dumb by Flores to treat him the way that he treated him, because I'm going, you guys are linked. And if you're being abusive to this guy that the owner already likes, you're digging your grave anyways. And that's where I think it's actually the most ridiculous thing. Did you think you were so powerful that you were going to outlast Tua? Because you and I know how this works. It's not going to work that way.
Our quarterback. That's not happening. I remember at the time when they picked Haskins and Jay was saying the things that he was, I remember sitting here going, you better become this guy's best friend. Like, I don't know what you're thinking right now, that like you might not be particularly nice to him or whatever it is, or you may not think he's ready to go, which I think is what, and I thought that was a fair assessment. And a lot of people said it, and a lot of people thought that the Redskins at the time overdrafted him because he wasn't really ready to go, but maybe he would develop into a good quarterback. He needed some time. Well, the conditions were that you had to play the guy and you had to make the best of it. And the reality is like, maybe he was just truth telling, but I remember sitting at the time going, if you're not best friends with this dude and you're not aligned with him, you're not going to be here very long because he's the quarterback of this team, for better or for worse.
Yep.
And, you know, Jay probably felt like rocking a hard place. Like, you know, I've been here long enough. People complain about me. I haven't won enough. We draft a guy that I don't believe is ready to go, but we're going to play him anyway. I'm just going to tell you up front, I don't think he's ready to go, you know, just so that it was like a built-in excuse of when he isn't, you know, you're going to see that I told you that. But this one seemed to have gone to a degree that was like way over the line. And, you know, like, I don't know how Jay and Dwayne I never got the sense that it was like that, you know, like Jay didn't come off to me as someone who was going to be this way to anybody all the time. He may say offhanded things. He may say things that are unusual to the media. He may, you know, but like, I never got the sense that Jay was like that to anybody ever, really. This went to a different level, a different degree that's just totally unacceptable. And like at this point, like I was listening to, you know, the clips of Flores basically say, I've learned from it. And then I thought a couple of his players did him a solid by like basically showing up and supporting him yesterday and basically being like, you know, I think more without saying it, like he's not this way with us. And we want you to understand that he's maybe learned his lesson. And then I saw someone else, I saw Ryan Clark do a clip and he was like, you know, I hope he gets another chance to be a head coach. And I'm like looking at this going, who in the world would trust him to do that again off of this with the most important player on the team? And one that he was clearly extraordinarily wrong about. Like, that's the most amazing part of this whole thing. Tua is the opposite of a bust. That's the most amazing part of the whole thing. And now this makes sense of why Tua struggled early in his career. Because if you don't have the backing of your coach or your organization, how are you ever going to succeed? This now puts into context Flores' firing in a way, 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 way different light. Remember, all that time I'm like, the owner's making him go on a boat and meet with Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And like, that's Tom Brady wasn't out of the NFL yet. So that you're not allowed to do that. That is tampering. And he's like, no, like, I don't want to do that and get caught up in this. And then, you know, he's a minority coach and there's a lot of complications that go on with stuff like that. And now in hearing all of this and admitting all of it and realizing it, it's kind of like, geez, buddy, like your credibility is a little shot to me right now, because I was kind of on your side the whole time when there was dabbling to try to get Brady to replace Tua. And I'm like, you can't do that. That is tampering. If they catch you doing that, you're going to get in trouble. And I was kind of on your side. Now it sounds like you were the one in trying to make that happen. So like, I don't know, man. Like, so I don't know about that second go as a head coach right now off of this. I don't think the guy has much credibility to be one at this point.
No, I think when this stuff like this comes out, you're pretty much dead in the water. Like, Urban Meyer is never getting another shot here the second you hear about that.
Not in the NFL. In college, I would argue maybe
sure.
like a
yeah.
school, you know, because he just won so much, it's hard to ignore it.
I agree. But in the NFL, it's kind of dead in the water. But I also just think, though, this stuff must get around, because I even, same thing yesterday, compared it not only to Jay Gruden, I compared it to Eric Bieniemy. You know, Eric Bieniemy didn't get a head coaching gig, and no one could figure out why. And everyone was banging the drum. And then it came apparent here in the last year. It didn't really come apparent during the season. It did come apparent in preseason and training camp. But it became all of a sudden like, oh, this guy's a hard ass. Andy Reid had him reeled in. Andy Reid had him reeled in. And then he was given more power here. And clearly the players didn't like it. And I compare it to modern players. Yes, I don't think they mind being coached hard. Terry McLaurin said it out loud that he doesn't mind being coached hard. But there has to be a better, you know, like, working environment. I mentioned it yesterday. These players are professionals. They don't need to be yelled at like they're children, essentially, is what I'm getting at.
Yes, this it became evident early, like last summer, that the team, I remember describing it as, I'm not sure when there's going to be a cooperative conversation, but I think it needs to happen. Because back in the spring, I was watching this and I'm going, you know what? This team hasn't done anything. They're being pushed. That's okay. Like, it's okay. Like, I'm all right with this. Yeah. But when the summer rolls around is when you need to let up a little bit. And you need to start listening to the players, and you need to start building a cooperative conversation with one another. And I remember thinking at the time, I'm like, if that doesn't happen, there's going to be a problem here. Like, the players are going to push back. Now, I never heard that Bieniemy was like what Flores was. Like, sure. That. I never heard like abusive, telling guys they suck, you know, like that they don't belong here. But he was extremely demanding. And the other part that was really the pushback of being extremely demanding was the players didn't like the positions they were being put in. And that really was the bigger issue. I think for them, they're watching this and they're getting pushed and pushed and pushed, and they're going in a direction that they don't see success. And that's the part of this too. Hard coaching that leads to success, a lot of guys that want to be great will buy into it. Yep. Hard coaching where the players do not buy into what you're selling is a recipe for disaster. And Ron had a chance in the summer when the players came to him and said to him, you need to get in the middle of this. The practices are too hard. Like, he's asking too much of us. And he's probably saying to that part, deal with it. You're an NFL player. But then when they said, I don't think what we're doing here is going to work, that's when he needed to step in. And in the past, he had stepped in and said, we're going to run the ball more, or we're going to do this, or we're going to do that. And he never did that. And this is where he lost the team. Because when the team says to you, look, like, we don't buy into what's going on here, and he says, take it up with him. Well, and you can't, because he doesn't want to hear it. It's a my way or the highway type situation. Then it's not going to work out. And you saw what happened, and it happened early. Week 3, they get boat raced by a really good team. I'm watching on film going, this isn't good. The other team knows where they're throwing the ball before they snap it. And Terry McLaurin, of all people, stands up and says, what kind of team are we going to be? And they're 2-1. And I went, oh no. Like, they lost to a Super Bowl contender at home. So what? Well, it wasn't so what, and this had been budding from the summer on that Bieniemy was too hard, but it's different. It's different than this. This was some level of abuse, and specifically to a player that you shouldn't be doing this with. And I don't know, maybe Tua just felt empowered to finally just come out and say it because he led the league in passing. And I think that's the craziest part of this whole thing. Flores should be embarrassed. Like, this guy is a I don't know if I want to call him elite, because I don't know that I see him like Lamar Jackson or Pat Mahomes or Josh Allen or Joe Burrow, but I do believe he's really, really, really good. I do believe he belongs. I do believe that he's a terrific quarterback, and I do believe that anybody would take him who don't have somebody better than him, and it's only a handful of teams that could say they have someone better than him. So he should be embarrassed for treating this guy this way, because not only does he belong, he has excelled when given proper coaching, put in the right system, and reinforce that you're good. Like, not that hard to figure out.
And I said this to you yesterday, but I think it's worth saying again, too. We got a hint of it during Hard Knocks last year when we, like, you and I both said, oh, we should watch this because they're going to play the Commanders during it. And there was that one, segment that they did where Mike McDaniel literally said, hey, all this guy needed was some positive reinforcement, and me telling him that he can do these things, and me testing him real quick at practice, and then saying that he did a good job. Like, clearly, and this is like part of the reason why I think Miami fans love McDaniel so much, is he exudes that. You can see that he's one of those guys that clearly cares about his players.
Yes.
And specifically, though, he is a match with Tua and coaching him the right way. This is what it's about. You have to figure out how to push players' buttons. And some of them, you can yell at them and say, hey, you need to do better, or you suck, or whatever. But some guys, you don't do that. Like, you don't be abusive to them, essentially.
No, he's interesting now. Now that I got to see him up close for a day, and I don't want to make any judgments about him, but I've watched his press conferences because they're very weird, and he says quirky things, and obviously he's funny. Like, he's funny and quirky, and he leans into he's a unique personality in the league, but he also is very smart. Like, their offense is unusual, like extremely unusual. But I watched him, and he does coach hard. Like, he does demand excellence. I think I described them in watching them practice, and then, watching them in a game. And then, of course, their offense over the last couple of years, they're an execution machine. Like, this is all well and good that you put this stuff out there and you try to do these kind of quirky misdirection plays, but that you can get embarrassed fast if the other team can kind of figure out what you're doing and blow these plays up. It doesn't happen that way because they execute at an extraordinarily high level. So he does coach hard. And then I watched him in the practice because in the practice last week, the Commanders were lighting their defense up. He wasn't having it. And there were a couple moments on offense where I saw him go directly, shoot across the field at a player. So he coaches hard, but he coaches, I think, respectfully, and I think that's where the difference is here. I don't know what kind of coach Belichick was. It sounds like he was very demanding and very hard to play for, but I also don't get the sense that he was sitting around muttering under his breath, "You suck," at guys. Like, I don't get the sense that that's how he was. And it's interesting to watch what's going on here, because Quinn is so the opposite end of the spectrum of, I want to get to know you as a person. I want with you as a person. I want you to care about me, care about your teammates. We're going to play better together that way. But at the same time, even offhanded the other day, when asked about Jaden Daniels being a leader, he said he doesn't have to be if it's not natural to him now. And he goes, you don't need to rip into Terry McLaurin us to do something like that. So he's realizes that hard coaching matters, and that you have to do certain things. But I do appreciate that he's saying, I'm going to let you be you, and we'll figure it out along the way.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's the best way to go about it. I mean, and you look at Quinn too, you and I have talked about this as well. Ron was a little awkward. He was old school, but Ron and Jack were a little awkward when it came to some of this stuff, where I told you, my least favorite part about Ron, I think looking back, besides a couple of the things he said, though, was these first round picks. They were just penciled in as starters right away. And if you were to do that, fine. But the worst part was like last year where Emmanuel Forbes is hung out to dry and then he doesn't really address it. He just gets benched. And I don't know what the communication was behind the scenes, but you and I both know it probably wasn't great. It was probably just like, oh, you're not starting this week. Whereas with Quinn, it seems like Quinn already, and you played that clip from Forbes the other day, where it's night and day, where even Forbes is saying, I'm getting, reinforcement, whether it's positive or negative. I'm getting
building back up. They are.
Yes, exactly. And that's where I think
and I was talking about him the other day. I said, and this matters to these coaches, and it should. The desire to get better, the desire to play well matters to them. I think this counts for what's going on with Jamin Davis. He's a willing participant to try to change positions. He's putting all his effort into it, and they're supporting him in that. And they're basically saying, like, we know this is going to be hard. We also know this is an execution business. If you can't cut it, if you can't cut this or you can't hack this, it is going to be goodbye, but we're going to support you the whole way along the way. And that's what's happening with Forbes here too. And Forbes I liked, it was truth telling the other day where he was basically like, I know you all are up my, what every single day on Twitter. Don't think I don't know that that's the case. However, my coaches have my back. And when they always say, there's always these cliche things of like, what's going on in here is not what's going on out there. I've seen a couple examples of that already with this team, and that's a very good sign. They're galvanized with one another. They trust one another. Are they good enough to win big? I don't know about that. But the laying of a foundation, when people say culture, when you're laying a foundation, that's it. That this team is in it for themselves. They don't care what everyone else says. They know what the truth is, and they're supportive of one another because they recognize that not everybody's a Pro Bowler on day one.
No, exactly right. And that's exactly what I've said from the beginning. This competition thing that even John and Terry mentioned, those are two guys that don't really have to compete, but that was the word they used at the beginning of things. I said, oh, it's totally different now. Everybody has to earn everything. All of a sudden, the culture shift is instant.
Listen to how Jahan is talking about this.
Yep.
Like, he's kind of in the crosshairs right now because, Mr. First round pick on not a really deep receiving core can't seem to exactly find the role, but listen to him talk about it while he's being honest and saying, I'm trying to figure it out and I've got to play better and I've got to find my role. He is also saying, you're not hearing a word of the coaches are down on him or out on him or anything like that. Like, none of that is happening. So, you need to be supportive of one another. And I feel that here. They also haven't lost a game yet. And until they go out there and play, it's all hunky-dory until we get out there and they're 1-2. And that could easily be the case this year. Go look at their schedule. So let's see how things react at that point. But at this point, what I do like is the supportive nature of it. Like, a different coach might just be like, nah, Forbes can't play. Or a different coach may be like, we got to get rid of Jamin because that's not what the staff is doing. The staff is trying to say, we know you're good athletes. We know you're high-level players. We know you had a rough go. Let's try to fix that. No promises, but let's do it together and see how it works out. And you saw what Jamin did the other night. And I do now believe, I feel differently about Forbes. I'm like, I don't know whether he's going to prominently play or not, but I see the work he's putting in. I see the support he's getting. Let's see how it plays out with him. Give him a chance. And give this staff a chance, especially at that position. Of all positions, give that staff a chance with this guy because they have a history of turning corners into turnover machines. So, and that's the one thing about him. He may not be big enough. He may have some issues with technique or whatever. We could parse out a lot of different things, and he's going to make mistakes. He's a corner. But he also has the propensity to have a lot of interceptions because of his speed in his hands. Give him a chance to do that. I think that's what the coaching staff is trying to say here too. Give him a chance here because, like, he's the guy that if the light bulb goes on and we figure it out with him, he's the guy that's going to be Deron Bland for us.
No, exactly. And I've even said this too. Like, fans need to get a grip on the status of being a first-round pick. Sometimes these guys, they're, third and fourth string, and that's okay. And if we can get to that point with Forbes, I think we can all even come to grips with that. Same thing with Dotson. If Dotson becomes wide receiver 3 and he becomes really, really good at wide receiver 3, this coaching staff has done their job, essentially, by putting these guys in the best position to win.
All right, let me take a quick break. We'll be right back. Very much the show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. Brad Boyce Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. Have you seen the video, which I won't post here because the Commanders demanded he take it down, from the out-of-work punter, Drew Chrisman, who had a workout here apparently earlier this summer. I didn't know about this. Documented it, I think, on his phone. Some of the documentation of it is at the Commanders facility, in the locker room, punting on the field, in the cafeteria or whatever, the commissary where they eat. And then from a distance, you kind of half hear an assistant coach tell him, thanks for coming in. We have Tress Way here. We're good. Like we're good. And then the end of the video is extremely touching because like that, if he goes, he's clearly disappointed. He's looking for a job. He had another workout. It didn't work out. He goes home and he hugs his kid. Okay. So like it has this very after school special touching feeling to it. And apparently the Commanders told him to take it down because he wasn't authorized to film stuff specifically at or around or in the facility. And I think that's where they're probably taking an issue with it, even though what he showed, I didn't really think was that out of bounds, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, this is the first time hearing of it. I didn't see this actually.
Have you seen this?
No, I haven't seen it. So,
okay. Yeah. I mean, it's up. The Commanders are demanding he takes it down, but obviously on the internet, things live forever. So it's there.
Yeah. No, that's a good stance to take because you cannot have guys filming inside your facility, especially if it's not authorized. You just can't do this.
And none of it's really bad. Like they show him going into a shower after a workout. They show him punting a few balls. They show him putting on a jersey for them. He shows what was offered in the cafeteria after practice. And then they do show a very quick snippet of a coach saying, thanks for coming in, but we're not going to sign you.
Okay. I mean,
none of it was that big of a deal, but I agree. Like, I don't think they knew he was doing that. And you can't have players, even whether they're on your team or not, doing anything like this. So
no, this goes all the way back to, remember Antonio Brown in the Steelers locker room going live after Tomlin, or during Tomlin's post-game speech. You cannot have it. There are lines that you cannot cross as players, let alone a player that's unsigned, by the way. You cannot have any of that. So I'm not surprised the Commanders are putting the kibosh on that one.
I mean, if you're looking for a feel-good touching thing, though, of a guy who's out of work and showing what he's trying to do to get back into the league, the end is amazing. I mean, especially as a dad, it's amazing. It really is.
Can I, speaking of social media things, can I grill you about something yesterday?
Sure.
Because I hadn't seen this. You said CeeDee Lamb posted a picture of himself as Batman.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Did I not? Is that wrong?
Dude, he posted a picture of himself as Spider-Man.
Oh.
But it's Spider-Man in the black suit. This is a whole different context, guy. It's completely different. You completely.
This is why I shouldn't comment on anything but the Commanders this time of year, because I'm not really paying attention to much. The Tua thing finally lifted me out of my little bubble because I'm like, that is too big a deal not to pay attention.
Sure. Okay, so new context here, by the way, because I literally, this is totally different now. To explain to you in superhero terms what that is, Spider-Man in the black suit means he takes on Venom, which is an enemy, which means he's saying, I can go play for an enemy team. Is that the Commanders? Is that the Giants? Is that the Eagles? I don't know. But that's totally different than you saying he posted a picture of Batman. So I'm just letting you know that context couldn't have been more wrong yesterday. When I saw the picture, I was like, oh my God, this is completely wrong. Those few minutes were completely wrong. So it was CeeDee Lamb saying, I'll go play for the enemy if I have to. That's what he was saying.
Even if I don't think I would have understood it, even if I got it right in the first place.
I'm just saying. You said
he's wearing a Spider-Man outfit. Oh, so I'm not. I wouldn't even have. I don't even know what that means.
But that's what I'm saying. It's Spider-Man in the black suit, which means he said, I can go be a bad guy. So that means he could be hinting, I want to go play with my old coach, Dan Quinn. You can make that correlation now. That's what I'm getting.
Now, are we going to get TikTok FaceTime leaks of him and Jaden Daniels?
Maybe.
Is that happening now?
Everyone wants to play with Jaden. You know what? I feel like you should feel good.
Are we going to have a 3-way call with Ayuk, CeeDee Lamb, and Jaden Daniels?
I mean, That's hot and heavy. I mean, it gets me steamed up. So
should we have a debate between CeeDee Lamb and Ayuk of which one we should acquire? Should we have that?
I mean, I'm down with that, but this is different now. Like, that was CeeDee Lamb saying, I want to go be a bad guy now. So I'm just saying that's completely different than a picture of Batman. I just needed to explain that to you.
Maybe he'll go to the Giants.
I mean, I don't, and the Eagles can't trade for him. They have too much money wrapped up in wide receiver at the moment. And I don't think the Cowboys would ever trade him in division. But I'm just saying that was a different context. So just letting you know.
Tyron today, Callow explained Spider-Man to Bram.
I mean, yes, that was not Batman. Two completely different guys.
I'm going to ask my son later today, did you know all this? And just see if he knows all this.
No, you just need to show him the picture that CeeDee Lamb posted and say, what superhero is this? And he's going to go, oh, that's Spider-Man. That's all you need to ask him.
Yeah. One other football story. Aaron Rodgers says that this is the most taxing training camp he's ever been a part of in his life. And the interesting part is he missed some of it. Remember back in the summer. Yes. And then when it rained outside, they didn't have him practice against the Commanders. So sure, pal, if you say so, yeah. If you say so, sure.
Now, I will give him this. If he's saying mentally, I'll give that to him because pressure's on up there. He didn't even have a chance to show what he could do last year. So it's really 2 years of ratcheted up pressure for them. If he wants to tell me he's mentally exhausted, I'll hear him on that. But physically, he's had the lightest training camp he might have ever had. So, yeah, I don't want to hear it about that.
He's not playing in the games. We'll have to see with the practices. I don't know, but I don't know. That might be him trying to do a solid for his coach to try to just say back to him, I know I put you in a situation by not being here for some of this stuff, and people were kind of like, what's up with that? And maybe this was his way of being like, I'm going to do a solid for you and explain that this camp was hard. Really, really, really hard.
Right. Yeah.
If you say so, buddy. If you say so.
Maybe
they're funny. I look at them. We'll have to do this in a week or two, like pick divisions. Like I look at them and I go, Bills are resetting. Patriots, I can't imagine are going to be particularly good or competing for a division. Miami's got a really good offense. We'll see with their defense. If this ain't the year for the Jets with Rodgers back, I don't know what is. Like this has got to be your year. And there's something about it that feels like it's not going to work out. Like it's going to either be Miami or Buffalo. Just something about it doesn't feel like it's going to work out.
No, we've covered this team before where veteran quarterback, they've got a couple good pieces, but it's still a franchise that just can't get it right. This has Dan Snyder Redskins written all over it. Everything looks great on paper heading into the season. Everybody's saying the right things, but you and I know how this works. The wheels end up falling off. Look at the Reddick situation. You win a Super Bowl if Reddick and guys like that buy in. And already there's a guy going, I'm not coming to camp. And then Saleh's trying to do the
like a samurai and was like, and they're like, we're not trading you. And I'm like, why not? Like, he doesn't want to be there. Why wouldn't you?
Well, he wants to get paid. I don't blame him for that's why he didn't work out with the Eagles. So I don't really understand what's happening here. The cracks are already showing. It wouldn't shock me if they mess around and win that division, but I'm with you. Like the division's a little too good for them to just mess around. They have to kind of run away with it.
Yes. All right, let me take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about what the Capitals are giving their fans this year if you go to one of their 50th anniversary games. Brave, watch the show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. Brave Watch the Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. How about the Capitals? Here are their giveaways this year. Let's see. The list includes, if I have this right, against Pittsburgh in November, a replica jersey that's like the original look. They're giving everybody a jersey? That doesn't seem very Ted. That's really happening? They're doing that?
I need to start this conversation off by, I think 2 years ago, I ripped them pretty hard about their promo schedule. I think 2 years ago or 3 years ago, they literally had 3 giveaways all season long. And now you look at everything that they're doing for the 50th anniversary. And last year and the year before, I have to say bravo Caps. They completely improved on what they're giving out fans, and they're going all out for this one. And to your point, the one that stuck out, or one of the ones that really stuck out, is that Penguins game. They're giving out the original jersey in white.
To everybody, or to like the first 28 people that show up is the question I have about that one.
I think it's to everybody, but I think it's more about context here. We've had no announcements of what jerseys they're wearing. There was a report over the weekend that they're going to wear the Screaming Eagle jersey because I guess it's a photo from overseas leaked with the Fanatics logo. But I look at that and I go, guys, if you're giving away the original Capitals jersey against the Penguins on a Friday night in the first couple weeks of the season, are you wearing the original jerseys again? Because if you're not, that's a little bit crazy. Like, am I wrong in thinking that that's what they're going to wear that night?
They should. Yes.
White at home too. Old school. Like, I think you have to, right?
And I'd love to see the Penguins, if they play along, put on like an old school Penguins jersey. That'd be awesome.
Yes, I would love that. I don't think that'll happen because the NHL is crazy like that. But I'm looking at this going, I think that's our first hint of like, okay, maybe they're bringing out the original sweaters for at least one night to wear against the Penguins. That's my first radar that went off.
Right before Thanksgiving, too, they are giving out a Zamboni gravy boat. So I'm like a touch pumped about that. A touch. I was like, that's a good one. They have, if you like bobbleheads, they're doing duo bobbleheads of like greats. So you'll get like Mike Gartner and Rod Langway and Peter Bondra and Ole Kolzig and stuff like that. So I think they've thought through some of this. I'll give them some credit, Ted. You've thought through some of this.
There's also the Zamboni gravy boat. That was a whole controversy like 3 or 4 years ago. You had to buy a special ticket to get one. And now they finally were like, all right, everyone gets one. So that's one that I'm glad that they fixed. How do you feel, by the way, the night that they're giving away the Kolzig-Bondra duo? Did you see what they called that era?
No.
They called that era the .com era. How do you feel about that?
So that's Ted saying he invented the universe. Is that
I mean,
right?
It's a little AOL-ish, is it not? Like, that's a little...
Ted needs to remind you how important he is to society. That's what that is.
I was like, all right, guys, like, you could have just called them the 2000s caps or something like that. But yeah, the .com era.
It's the AOL caps. It's when we all started communicating with one another in a modern way. I invented it.
I invented dial-up, Bram.
Hey, listen, he's not that far from it. Like he's 6 degrees of separation of it.
He is. No.
I'm 8 million degrees of separation of it. He's 6 degrees of separation of it. I'm waiting for him to go full crazy and be like, I invented punk music too. Like I'm waiting for that part of his brain to turn on that he believes he invented everything. He didn't invent the internet, but he was pretty darn close at the beginning of it. He's Kevin Bacon of it. He's right there. He's like on the cusp of saying, I'm one of the founding fathers of it. He's on the cusp of saying that.
He was in the cabinet. I'll give him that. He was in the cabinet of the internet.
Yes.
One of the ones that you did not mention that you need a special ticket for, but I need to, hit up my guy John Walton for. They're giving away a beer stein in October. I think it's like the same thing, second or third week of the season. And the handle is the eagle wing from the logo.
I like that.
And I was like, that's badass. Like, I just want one of those to display.
I'll have to get John to steal me one of those. I like that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I actually need to hit the caps up and be like, hey, can you just put all these in a box, please, for me?
Hey,
like,
see the set behind me? I will put it up there prominently if you give it to me. How about that?
Right.
That will be up there prominently and permanently if you give me that. How about that?
But
it's a thing to put back there.
I was gonna say there is a lack of caps representation back there. But what I would say, what do you got back there? What are you grabbing there? Oh, you got a puck. All right, you got a puck back there. But what I would say, just overall, kudos to the Caps. I've told you this 50th anniversary, I was slightly worried about the rollout because we just heard nothing, and there's a whole brand change coming with Fanatics taking over. 100 out of 10 Caps, great job. It looks like there's something almost every single night, so great job for them.
Yes. All right, last thing today. Lane Thomas had an RBI in helping Cleveland beat the Yankees in 12 innings last night. But the thing that really stands out about it is 12 innings is the longest baseball game of the season on August 20th, August 20th, the longest baseball game of the season is 12 innings. And I can't decide if that's good or bad because, while I never really loved the 19 innings or whatever would happen every once in a while, it was kind of the quirkiness of the sport that could happen. And while it still could, it would take failure on a level that is kind of unexplainable to have a game go that long now. So I don't know. Where are you? Like 12 innings that's the longest game of the season now because no one can get past 10 or 11. Once you hit the extra innings and you put the runner on second, it ends. Like it ends.
Two things can be true here. I can hate the ghost runner, but I can also like that games are ending faster because I think the pitching injuries are getting to be too much all across the board between starters and relievers. And this is saving some really dangerous outings to happen. Like you said, the 19 inning thing was fun every once in a while. Someone's got to pitch those
for 2 weeks.
Yes, someone's got to pitch those. Yeah. And so I think two things can be true. I can hate the ghost runner because it's not baseball, but I can also like faster games. So I'm fine with it. I've adjusted to it. I love now that when I go to a Nats and Orioles game, I'm tapping in for 2.5 hours and I'm good. And if there's some extra innings, it's really exciting in person. Like I said, it's not baseball, but I can still embrace it because it's a good time in the park.
Yeah, this will be my daily reminder now that the Orioles have either the best record or a half game out of the best record in baseball, even though the internet doesn't seem to think that that's the case about them, but they do because they won again. And I thought this record was amazing. San Diego is 72-55, like a couple games back of the Dodgers without Soto.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
That's hitting the reset button and winning. That's insane that they did that.
It is insane. It's insane that they did it. All right. See y'all tomorrow. Brave Watch the Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.